Hello Scorpio, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for June for the Sun or the Ascendant. As ever, I'm going to give you the broad strands to look out for, but then please stay with me. I will dive much deeper to give you in forensic detail all the key dates and influences for your sign. Now, of course, as you enter this month, the Sun may be in the transformational 8th house, which has more than a feel of the energy of your sign. So it's very much about the potential for change, but also it can be where we're most invested. And because it's on the back of a new moon, which occurred on the last day of May, there is the chance for big transformations this month. Everybody is perhaps conscious of the cost of living increases, but with Mercury in retrograde as this month begins, I think it may be a relationship matter that's really focusing your mind. There may be some cross wires, and yet Venus, the planet of relating, is in your opposite sign, giving you a deft touch. You can relate to people with skill and sensitivity. It just may be that someone still has got the wrong end of your stick, so to speak. But on the 3rd, Mercury goes into forward motion, on the 4th out of shadow, so that's exciting. I need to tell you, of course, about Saturn going into retrograde in your sector of home and emotion on the 4th, and Neptune going into retrograde to join up with your modern higher octave ruler Pluto into retrograde on the 28th in your sector of romance. And of course, your traditional ruler is Mars, and it starts this month in a very intense but also very energized combination with Jupiter, which can be lucky for you. You just need to know that Mars and Pluto, your two rulers, are clashing the last 3 days of this month. So I've got loads to share with you. There's also a potentially very tricky full moon which occurs on the 14th. So please stay with me for more. However, if you would like to ascend above this Zodiac broadcast and gain much more understanding of your natal astrology, if you give me 3 pieces of personal information, time, date and place, I can give you a roadmap that you can use for the rest of your life. Furthermore, I can give you a 12-month forecast that can guide your moves over that period of time, share opportunities with you, but also when things may be a little bit more challenging. And in my special offer, you can get 30% off. Please see the link beneath this video and do read the testimonials that other users have shared. And finally, I'm nearly at that 100,000 mark on my subscriptions. Due to a lot of illnesses over a lot of years, it's taken me a lot longer to get there than I would have liked. But if you've yet to subscribe, I'd be grateful if you did so now. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol, and you can see that link beneath this video. But please stay with me now for more. So Scorpio, your monthly horoscope for June, we must focus on your traditional ruler Mars. It's in a real vibrant combination with Jupiter, the planet of growth, but in the 6th house. So what I can say to you with some confidence this month is I think you're going to have much more physical vitality. The key is how you use this, because you don't want to use it in ways in which you don't see a tangible return, because the 6th house is very much about the details. So if you're productive, hard-working, but productive, that's going to be a combination that gives you a lot of personal satisfaction. Now, the Sun in your 8th house, well, that's very good for thinking about business, entrepreneurship, or very, very close involvements. But of course, having Mercury in retrograde in your sector of relating suggests that maybe there have been some tensions around certain involvements. They will get easier from the 4th when it comes out of shadow, but of course Venus is in this opposite sign too, along with Uranus and the North Node. The North Node could be bringing some karma home to roost in terms of your past actions in relationships. It's possible that Uranus is bringing some surprises and things may be moving quicker than you thought they might. But Venus says that if you can try to keep a sense of equilibrium and see the other person's viewpoint as well as share your needs, you've got a much greater chance of making this work for you. Now, Venus happens to forge a really cool semi-sextile with Mars for the first 12 days of this month. So the more skilled you are at relating, the better it can be for you, but particularly around the potential to get yourself a new job, because the 6th house, very much about the everyday practice of our work. So the actual processes, the precision, providing a service that's useful to someone else, making sure we're efficient in whatever we do. And Venus just means that if your people skills are working well, then your experience, knowledge and abilities can really shine. But of course, Saturn does go retrograde on the 4th, and Saturn's been giving you a bit of a hard time. I would say harder than many people, since it first moved into your 4th house on March the 20th, 2020 through to August the 2nd, and then again from December the 17th, 20 right through to now. Of course, Saturn goes into a retrograde for about 4.5 months every single year. But this retrograde that you've got through to the 23rd of October just says that when it comes to home, emotional and family matters, you may have to dig in a little bit. There may be further lessons to be learned. There may be more disciplines that you need to show. But Saturn tends to be characterized by some YouTube astrologers as being the planet of punishment, but it can also be the planet of reward. But like every good Capricorn will tell you, you have to really be sustained in your approach to get those rewards. So if you're trying to get your first foot on the housing ladder, you're dealing with the complexities of the energy crisis and the cost of living having gone up, which many of us are, it's not an easy hoe. But you're a very resourceful sign. You have great strength of character, and that is going to serve you well this month. But I think with Mars combining with Jupiter, there's just a sense in the air almost that you can make things better. And being hardworking is sure is a great way to try. Also, Saturn's forging a brilliant link to the Sun from the 13th to the 19th. So if you are wanting to achieve something around a property matter, good news can happen around that time. Also on the 13th, Mercury emerges back into the sign of Gemini. This is significant because it rules this sign. For sure, there may be some conversations or clarifications you need to make in the early part of this month around a relationship. But Mercury in the 7th house is concerned by how people relate to us. Mercury in the 8th house is understanding what they really mean. And because of your extra sensory skills of really knowing when you're hearing BS, when someone's not being very genuine, you use that sixth sense to your great advantage. Mercury helps you to decipher from this point what someone really means, particularly around a relationship matter. But in terms of business, it's absolutely terrific if you need to do some research, some probing, some planning. Your strategic skills, often very strong, can really shine. But that takes us to the full moon in the sign of Sagittarius on the 14th, which for you is house 2, everyday money, whereas the Sun, house 8, the longer term stuff, pensions, savings, properties and stuff like that. But Neptune's in the mix. You cannot afford to be too idealistic, particularly in your romantic situation. If there is a difference in your sense of viewing the worth of something or the values around something, the confusion that Neptune can bring is something not to be underestimated. So if you are getting to know someone and you're not quite sure about their honourability, about paying their way or at least a share of the situation, or they're asking you for some kind of financial help and you hardly know this person, I would really go careful. Also, just be aware that someone quite innocently may try to enthuse you about a get-rich-quick scheme. Neptune can really sort of come up magic up these type of proposals. And again, I'd use the scrutiny of Mercury in your 8th house to check out what's really viable or not. Now, the 21st is a great day for you because not only is this the summer solstice, of course, Western tropical astrology is predicated on Mediterranean time. If you are in the south, I know, of course, it will be your winter solstice. But in terms of the astrology, this is our time to think about home, emotion, family, security matters. But for you, this is the 9th house. This is about widening your horizons, being much more daring. So it could mean for some Scorpio people, you will think about moving or do move during this period of time. Or if you do travel, you're going to want to go somewhere that you feel really comfortable and at ease in. So it could be somewhere quite familiar to you, particularly with Saturn in retrograde. But Venus joins up with Mercury on the 23rd in your 8th house. Now, this is very, very essential. If there is somebody that you really like and there is that real charisma sparking between you, this could get seriously steamy between you. So that's something to look out for. But also in a more prosaic way, Venus moving into this area could see you benefit from some kind of legacy payment or payout, which can delight you. The 28th, however, sees Neptune retrograde until the 4th of December. It's in your 5th house. This is where you can be most creative. It's also where you can really indulge your romantic fantasies. But Neptune is also where we can get most disappointed. I've got Neptune, as you know, I have got a very Scorpionic chart. Most of my overlay is in Scorpio. And I have the North Node and Jupiter in Scorpio in the 1st house. So, but I also have Neptune conjunct that Jupiter and North Node. So Neptune is a very, very powerful influence. And in my situation, sometimes it's hard to sort of really concentrate, to come out of that dreaminess. But I think it's important that you keep a degree of clarity around where you want to feel joys in your life through to the 4th of December. The new moon, however, which occurs on the 29th, really suggests that if you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to expand, you want to be more daring, adventurous, or travel, it's a fabulous new moon to do that. And it could be linked to your work. Just be aware that Jupiter's square to this new moon. If you are having an interview, don't promise that you can do everything that you're asked, because you could get swept up in an uncharacteristic desire to overpromise, whereas you're at your best when you're usually being a little bit more cautious. But Venus is in a semi-sextile to the new moon, but in a terrific sextile to Jupiter itself. So I think some good news around a job could manifest itself at the end of this month. It's just as I mentioned before that your 2 ruling planets are in a mighty clash the last 3 days, Mars and Pluto. That can create quite a lot of nervous tension. Maybe someone can be a bit picky about the detail of a situation, and that could be something that irritates you, particularly if you're working really hard, putting everything into a situation, and still someone doesn't seem to appreciate what you're doing. That could cause you to become quite frustrated, even downright angry, to be honest. But what this new moon asks you to do at the end of this month is to embrace the truth of the situation. None of us can do any more than that, really. We can sometimes try to see what we would like the truth to be, but that isn't actually the factual truth. So I think if there is a situation that you're unsure about, you need some clarity, and you have a trusted friend who tends to be pretty good at being detached, being supportive of you, but also being honest, they could be a good conduit for some key information or advice as the month comes to a close. But you can see that when it comes to widening your horizons, there's a great chance to do that this month. But I think essentially a lot of this month is about dealing with where you're most invested and how you want to use your skills and energy to best effect.